Good morning and welcome to just Monday morning messages, or should I say now, just morning messages. Certainly want to take a moment to begin to talk about the second 9 weeks and some look fors and what we're really ramping up to make sure that we close the semester in a very positive, impactful way for our students. Certainly one of the things that we talk about when we think about our day-to-day is planning for quality instruction. What are we talking about when we think about, or should I say, what's all included in planning for quality instruction and teacher effectiveness? Well, certainly we want to make sure that our lesson plans or modules are certainly robust with great rigor and more importantly, that we've created in our minds a great pedagogy and methodology in an effort to be able to deliver this instruction. Certainly we want to make sure that we're doing a good job with differentiation of instruction and making sure that we have some key RTI components embedded, of course, for Tier 2 and Tier 3, and making sure that our learning targets are visible and that we articulate our learning targets so students understand when administrators or anybody for that matter walks into a classroom and says to a student, hey, what are we learning today? What is the learning target for today? Students should be able to not only give a learning target, but give a rationale for why and how this learning target is connected, is impactful, has connected to the real world, the everyday scenarios, whether it be math, science, English, or, of course, history. How are we connecting this to real world application? And so those are things that we look for when we come in. Also, what are you doing with your formative assessment piece to make sure that students are actually gleaning and perfectly understanding what it is that you're trying to deliver? And then what sort of a summative assessments are in place? Is it all just multiple choice? Do you have some performance-based assessments in there, project-based assessments in there? Obviously, there's more than one way to assess whether or not a student or students are learning your material. Also, on our end, and I say our end, not just administrators, but also you're going to have colleagues in addition to board members. And I say board members, let me rephrase that, folks from the board coming to your classrooms, and they're going to be doing observations, and they're looking for, as we talked about, learning targets, student engagement, what type of assessment, what's going on in your classroom. So certainly the Elliott, the walkthrough, the Educate Alabama instrument, all are going to be a part of what we're utilizing to determine teacher effectiveness. Of course, and that's found in your Educate Alabama as well. What sort of data are we using? How often are you benchmarking? Obviously, everyone should have did a diagnostic in the very first couple of weeks of school to determine where your students are, and then from there benchmark periodically or incrementally to determine if your students are picking up what it is obviously that we're laying down in respect to instruction. And the teaching and learning process is sometimes with the pacing guides, we know comes to a lull when we hit a wall and we know that we have to remediate, or we know that the students didn't really grasp the concept, and we have to look at the standard and find a different way to unpack it in an effort to make sure that the students are mastering these standards. So certainly we want to utilize our data in a way that gives us the validity to know that the students are mastering these standards, and then of course efficaciously moving forward in an effort to make sure that they own it, and if they believe that they are with the confidence that they are understanding this material. And I go back to the presentation, and of course some of us, math teachers, we're going to get at the board and we're going to work numbers, we're going to work problems, we're going to make sure kids go up there and work problems. We know, and that's the traditional way, but we got to start to look at different ways to present information and get students more engaged in the work and ownership of the work. I go into history classes, of course, it's traditional PowerPoint, boom, 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 boom. I'm going to talk about this point, we're going to talk about that point, we're going to talk about that point, and then we move on to the next slide. Folks, there has to be a different way to reach a deeper level of understanding for our students as they research the material that you're obviously wanting them to understand, and then be able to create an argument, either you're for or against. You're not going to be able to do that with PowerPoints and then say, okay, tell me, please, what started the French Revolution? Please tell me, World War I, who were the key figures in World War I? What year did the United States enter World War I? Folks, third graders do this. Third graders memorize this. It's not about memorization, although it's important to know your facts. But it's more important to understand how things came about, and more importantly, how impactful they are, were they then, and what impact does it have on today, and maybe even in the future, and be able to craft an argument and facts to support. That's what we're trying to get to, where kids grapple with high-text language where they have to look at this verbiage and draw some inference. And then we're doing explicit instruction every day. Folks, that's where we have to be. Well, you may say, wow, this sounds like more than I signed up for. Well, there's another signature that you can do as well, folks. And I'm not trying to create any sort of hostility amongst faculty, but folks, this is hard work. When you're going from students who 6 of our seniors have passed all parts of, or benchmarked all parts of the ACT, 6 out of a group of 250, there's work to be done. There's work to be done. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. There's no other way to get around it. You have to know where your students are. More importantly, you have to know where the benchmarks are. And the most important thing is you have to know how to get in there. And if you don't, it's not time out to get them on cell phones. It's not time out to be able to pacify them. It's, hey, let's get with our department heads. Let's get with our discipline coaches from the board. Let's get with admin. Let's get with the folks who can help us move the needle in our classroom instead of covering it up in a blanket and hiding. Can't do that any longer. Folks, we got to move full throttle ahead and open this thing up to get to where we need to be by the end of the semester. Accountability. Students roaming the halls. Students in your classrooms not following your classroom norms, and we're ignoring them. I don't understand why we're ignoring them. I do not. I do not understand sometimes that you got to take the material and sit down the material and really talk about how you conduct yourself as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old ninth grader, all the way up to a 17, 18, 19-year-old senior, and talk about what expectations in your classroom and, more importantly, as a citizen in society should look like. Because before you can get their attention, before you can teach any dangling modifier or balance an equation or try to get to the square root or whatever, you got to have their attention. And they have to understand where the expectations are, and I trust the expectations are set high. Moving forward to teacher collaboration. Teacher collaboration obviously is found in our PLCs. We want to make sure that when we are in PLCs that it's a constructive narrative, not a gripey narrative about why folks are in my class. Why did I get this assessment feedback that doesn't align to what I believe I was doing to help move the needle with students? If you have issues with anything that's written down in terms of observations, I welcome you to have a conversation with any administrator, and I promise you we will help clear it up for you. We want the best for our students. And again, I go back to 90% of our teachers every single day come with it. And when I say come with it, I mean they bring top level quality instruction. And we talk about the bottom 10 and the top 10. Unfortunately, we have the same thing in terms of in our building. And I can promise you, when we talk about it, I'm an old ball coach. And I always say, it's not the all-stars that I should be gauged by. It's the ones who struggle the most. And being able to move those students to where in which they can master these skills that we're asking them to master. Same thing with the teachers in our building. We can only be gauged by the bottom 10% of teachers that are not moving the needle in their classroom. And it goes back to it's either a will or a skill thing. Either you don't have the skills to move them, and that's why we're here to help you, or you lack the will. You're burned out. You got too many ESL kids. You got too many special ed kids. You got too many this. You got too many that. How about You take the hand that you're dealt. And the understanding is that the parents are sending us the absolute very best they have every single day. I remember starting in education back in 1994-95 school year, and I taught 7 classes on an 8-period day, and I had 7 preps. 7. And if you think I'm lying, I'll bring my grade book from 1994 and 95 and lay it out for you, and you can see. And I promise you, some of them were 30-something students in Fairfield High School with no AC, teaching on the top floor. Folks, nobody said it was going to be easy. But I can promise you one thing. If you come to school every single day for the right reasons, like I say, most of you do, and I know you do because I see it, then you work through whatever issues because you know the end game is to making sure that we're impacting the lives of the students we teach. If you have any questions, please, again, feel free to come by any administrator's office and we'll do our absolute very best to address it. We're going to get in there and we're going to work hard for our students this next 9 weeks, like I know that you're planning on doing, and we're going to continue to ramp up because we have a lot of ground to cover. Remember, here at Pinson Valley High School, we will continue to promote achievement, respect, and success. That is our mission. Thank you and have a productive rest of your day.